Ever feel like you're drowning in a sea of self-help advice,
Mm.
but none of it really sticks?
It's like drinking from a fire hose, right?
Totally. So today we're diving deep with someone who cuts through all that noise, Naval Ravikant.
What's fascinating about Naval is that he's not your typical, self-help guru.
Right.
He's a tech entrepreneur, an investor, someone who's achieved incredible
The
success.
material world, yeah.
Exactly. But his insights go way beyond just, making money.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, yeah, I figured out wealth, but here's the real secret, how to be happy and fulfilled along the way. And lucky for us, someone took all of his brilliant ideas from podcasts and tweets and blog posts and distilled them into a book,
Yeah.
The Almanack of Naval Ravikant.
It's like a cheat sheet to a life well lived. And speaking of cheat sheets, isn't that what our deep dive is all about?
You know,
Giving you the wisdom without the weeks of reading.
exactly. So
Yeah.
for anyone new to Naval's work, imagine this. Growing up with real hardship, not exactly born with a silver spoon.
Yeah, his story really resonates because it's not the cliche rags to riches
Yeah.
tale.
Right.
He talks about Stuyvesant High School, this super competitive school in New York City, being a turning point for him.
Yeah.
He called it an intelligence lottery, like getting in open doors to scholarships, Ivy League colleges, and eventually the tech world.
It reminds me of that saying, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Because sure, there was an element of luck in getting into Stuyvesant, but he also had the drive and the intellect to really make the most of it.
And that segues perfectly into how he defines wealth. He's not just talking about a fat bank account.
Right.
He sees it as building assets that work for you, even while you sleep.
Okay, so not just money, but something that generates more money. Like his famous tweet storm on getting rich, where he talks about owning equity, starting businesses.
Exactly. It's about creating systems that generate income, whether you're, clocking in 8 hours a day or sipping lemonade on a beach.
Okay.
And this is where his concept of specific knowledge comes in.
All right, let's unpack this a little bit. What is specific knowledge, and how does it relate to building wealth?
So think about it like this. What's something you're naturally good at? Something that feels effortless to you, even if others find it difficult. It could be anything. Coding, writing, talking to people, even just being super organized. That's your specific knowledge.
So it's not just about like learning a bunch of random skills.
Right.
It's about identifying what you're already uniquely good at.
Exactly.
But then how do you turn that into something that actually makes you money?
That's where the internet comes in. It's like this giant amplifier for your specific knowledge. So let's say you're amazing at baking cakes. You could be the best baker in your town, but you're limited by geography, right? But online, you can create a course, write an ebook, build a whole community around your passion, and reach a global audience.
So it's like finding your niche, but then having the tools to turn that niche into like a thriving business.
Exact.
But Naval stresses that it's not just about the skills, it's about the mindset too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like taking ownership and playing long-term games.
100%. He talks about the importance of accountability, even when it means taking risks. He says, embrace accountability and take business risks under your own name. He's all about building a reputation, a brand that people trust.
And this reminds me of that story he tells about his business partner, Elad Gil. Can you refresh our memory on that, why that relationship is so important to him?
Yeah, absolutely. Elad is like the epitome of a long-term player. Naval trusts him implicitly because Elad consistently goes above and beyond in their business deals. Naval even says he tries to bring Elad into every deal he can because he knows Elad always has his best interests at heart.
Wow.
It's like compound interest, but applied to relationships.
That's such a great way to put it. It's about finding your people, those who share your values and are in it for the long haul, but even with the right people and like a killer work ethic. Naval argues that something else trumps all, judgment.
He's got a point. He uses the example of a CEO. A small increase in judgment, even just 10%, can be worth a fortune when you're steering a multi-billion-dollar company.
So it's not just about working hard, it's about working smart,
Yes.
making those high-leverage decisions that have the biggest impact. And speaking of impact, he's also wary of getting caught up in the status game, right?
He's got this great line, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He sees chasing status as a zero-sum game. You're always comparing yourself to others, trying to outdo them, which ultimately leads to unhappiness.
It's like that saying, comparison is the thief of joy. Instead, he encourages us to focus on positive-sum games, like creating wealth where everyone can benefit. which brings us to the heart of his philosophy.
It's interesting you say that because that's what I think is so cool about him.
Yeah.
He's achieved this incredible level of worldly success,
Right.
but he's also deeply introspective about what truly matters.
It's like he's saying, hey, I climbed the mountain, and let me tell you, the view from the top isn't all it's cracked up to be unless you've got the happiness to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So let's dive into that Naval's perspective on happiness.
Yeah.
He's pretty adamant that it's not something you find, but something you create.
He is, and he speaks, I think, from experience. He's admitted that he used to be like a 2 out of 10 on the happiness scale, even when he was achieving outward success. That's when he really started studying happiness, not just as this like concept, but as a skill to be cultivated.
Okay, so how do we level up our happiness skills? Does he have like a secret formula or something?
It's less about a formula and more about like a fundamental shift in perspective.
Okay.
He's all about recognizing the power of choice.
Okay.
We choose happiness every single day. It's not about waiting for some, external circumstance to change.
So instead of saying, I'll be happy when, it's about finding ways to be happy right now in this moment.
Exactly. And a big part of that is being present.
Right.
He talks about how we're constantly nexting, always thinking about what's next, never fully experiencing the now.
It's like we're always chasing something just out of reach.
Right.
And I know he's got some interesting thoughts about desire itself. It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But he actually sees desire as a form of unhappiness.
He does. And it's a thought-provoking point.
Yeah.
Think about it. When we're constantly desiring things that we don't have, it creates this sense of lack, a feeling that something is missing.
Yeah.
We're always striving, never fully content.
So is he saying we should just give up on our goals and dreams and just become these like passive observers of life?
No, not at all. He's not advocating for a life like devoid of ambition or striving.
Okay.
It's more about examining our desires, understanding their root, and recognizing that true happiness isn't found in this constant pursuit of more.
Right.
He's a big believer in acceptance, which plays a key role in finding happiness.
It makes me think of that quote, happiness is not having what you want, but wanting what you have.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, accepting the present moment for what it is, rather than wishing it were different.
Yes.
And speaking of acceptance, I know he talks about how there are really only 3 options when faced with a situation.
You're right. You can always change it, you can always accept it, or you can leave it.
Right.
But what's not a good option is sitting around wishing you would change it, but not changing it, wishing you would leave it, but not leaving it and not accepting it.
Right.
You've got to pick one.
Yeah, it's such a powerful reminder to, like, take ownership of our happiness, right?
Yeah.
We can't always control our circumstances, but we can control how we respond to them.
Absolutely.
And Naval is all about building happiness through habits.
Absolutely. He's a big advocate for cutting out things that detract from our happiness. For example, he's not a fan of sugar. Right. Or social media, which he sees as addictive and ultimately unfulfilling, empty calories, whether it's for your body or your mind.
And then there's his 5 chimps concept, which always makes me laugh, but it's also so insightful.
It's so Naval.
Can you explain that one for our listeners?
Yeah, he says you become like the 5 people you spend the most time with your 5 chimps.
Right.
So choose your chimps wisely.
Yes.
Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who support you, and who bring out the best in you.
It's such a simple concept, but it's so true.
It is.
Our social circles have a huge impact on our happiness and well-being.
He talks about how his wife, that's a great example of that for him.
Oh, interesting.
They share these core values, especially when it comes to family. And that foundation of shared values is like essential for a happy and fulfilling relationship.
It's like he's giving us the blueprint.
Right.
But we have to actually pick up the tools and start building.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a bit and talk about some practical takeaways from the book, things we can start doing today.
Okay.
And I know Naval's a big proponent of meditation.
He is.
Yeah.
He calls it intermittent fasting for the mind. Just like you give your body a break from digesting food, meditation is about giving your mind a break from constantly processing information.
I love that analogy.
It's so good.
And he's not dogmatic about it either.
No.
It's not about finding the right technique. It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah, he's experimented with everything from like Vipassana to transcendental meditation.
Right.
He even talks about exploring the Wim Hof method, which involves those intense ice baths.
Intense.
He's definitely not afraid to get uncomfortable in the pursuit of self-improvement.
That's what I admire about him.
Yeah.
He walks the talk.
Yeah.
And speaking of taking action, he's a big believer in building yourself up, not
Yeah.
waiting for permission to pursue your passions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He has this great quote, "Don't wait for permission. Start creating and taking action now. Don't let self-doubt or the fear of judgment hold you back."
Easier said than
Yeah,
done, right?
right.
But he's also a realist. He
Yes.
knows that failure is part of the journey.
Yeah.
He actually encourages people to embrace failure.
He does. He says even entrepreneurs who haven't, like, made it in the traditional sense
Hmm.
are still better off than those who never tried because they've gained invaluable experience. They've learned what works, what doesn't work.
Right. It's about embracing the process, the ups and downs, the wins and the losses.
Exactly.
And through it all, he emphasizes the importance of cultivating inner freedom. What does he mean by that?
So for Naval, inner freedom is about freeing yourself from those reactive patterns, those like knee-jerk reactions that lead to unhappiness.
Yeah.
It's about rising above anger, negativity, limiting beliefs, all those things that kind of hold us back from living a truly fulfilling life.
Totally. He tells this great story about forcing himself to take cold showers as a way to train his mind to, like, overcome those initial impulses.
Yes, it's about proving to yourself that you're in control.
Right.
That you don't have to be a slave to your immediate desires or fears.
Right, right. And speaking of overcoming limitations, we have to talk about Naval's love of learning. The guy devours books.
Oh, he does. He's an avid reader.
And he reads everything.
Yes.
From, like, science and philosophy to history and biography. In the book, he even includes, like, a whole section dedicated to his favorite reads.
He does, yeah. His reading list is incredibly diverse, which speaks to his belief that knowledge comes from everywhere.
Right.
He's not afraid to, like, branch out to explore different perspectives.
Totally. And his approach to reading is interesting, too.
Yeah.
He's all about extracting the key insights. He's not afraid to skim, to jump around, to, like, dog-ear pages and highlight important passages.
He's all about efficiency, about, like, maximizing his time and energy.
Right.
Which, when you think about it, perfectly encapsulates his entire philosophy.
Yeah.
Naval isn't about giving you a rigid set of rules to follow. He's about empowering you to think for yourself, to discover your own path to wealth and happiness.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the wisdom of Naval Ravikant, we'll leave you with this. He once said that there are no real adults.
Ooh, I like this one.
We're all just figuring things out as we go. So what does that mean for you? What path will you choose to create? What specific knowledge will you leverage? What habits will you cultivate to design a life of both wealth and happiness? We encourage you to explore Naval's work, further his website, his Twitter feed, his podcast. They're all treasure troves of insight. And until next time, keep diving deep.